Hi, this is Sam Mustafa, and welcome back to the introduction of the newest honor game, Scourge of Princes. This is the second short video in the series in which we look at how to resolve shooting. As with the first video, you should download a copy of the Great Captain PDF from the honor website. It'll be helpful to have it on your screen or in front of you as we go through these examples. Let's review a basic concept from the first video, the activation of units in your round. When you activate a unit, you may shoot with it and then move it, or you may move with it and then shoot, or you could do one of those but not the other. The basic rule, however, is that you must complete all of a unit's actions, including resolving any shooting or combat, before you activate another unit. Activating a unit to move always costs momentum. We went over that in the first video. But activating a unit to shoot never does. That means you could shoot even if you have no momentum left. Just as with moving, a unit may only shoot once per round. Artillery units in the earlier historical periods covered by this game have no movement allowance. Activating them always and only means activating them to shoot. By the later period, artillery does typically have a small movement allowance, but you may not both shoot and move with it. There's one exception in the advanced rules for galloper guns. But if you look at the stat line below my Turkish artillery unit there, you will see that that earlier period field artillery has the wheel symbol showing that it's a vehicle, but no number in it. It has no movement allowance. Once placed on the field, it's there for the game. Whereas the 17th century light field guns, you can see has a yellow number 4 over the wheel symbol, meaning that it does have a modest movement allowance of 4 inches. But if it's going to shoot, it can't move. Not in the same round. A unit may shoot only if it has one of the shooting traits. These are skirmish, volley, artillery, or musketry, and you can see them there in order from top to bottom. The skirmish symbol is the target with the arrow hitting the bullseye. The volley symbol is the 4 explosions. The gun, of course, is the artillery symbol, and the musket is the symbol for musketry. On the table, you can see who can do what. A unit with the skirmish trait may only skirmish. A unit with the volley trait may skirmish or volley. At the time you shoot, you choose. Volley is admittedly an anachronistic term. It really, there's no real volley fire for another 150 years or so. But what it means in the game is there are hundreds of shooters that may either be massed in the front of the unit or can be spread out to shoot at enemies to the flank or even to the rear. An artillery unit, or a unit with the musketry trait, that represents 17th century infantry with a much more effective firepower, may only volley. Every unit has 4 center points. You can see these as the yellow triangles here. There's a center point on your front edge. That's the one you use most commonly, but there are center points on the other edges as well. The shooting unit picks one target. A skirmishing unit, a unit that chooses to skirmish, may aim from any of its 4 center points. It could even shoot to its rear. Skirmishing represents a fairly mobile, low-intensity fire. For example, horse archers, or the arquebusiers or crossbowmen who support a block of pikemen. Who knows where they might be vis-a-vis the pikemen themselves. A volleying unit, that's everybody who's not skirmishing, may only aim from the front center point. Most artillery units have an unlimited range when they volley. All the other shooters, including some light artillery, have a range of 8 inches. You can use the measuring tool provided in the Great Captain PDF, or you can create your own. The tool must be 2 inches wide and should have a dot at one end, which you can place over the unit's center point as it shoots, and then you can angle it to determine whether you're making a legal shot. If you're skirmishing, pick any target you want. If you're volleying, then if you have a target directly to your front and within 8 inches, you must shoot at the closest target directly to your front. If there's no target directly in front and within 8 inches, you may shoot at an illegal target. In either case, you may not angle the measuring tool more than 45 degrees. If you look at this example with green shooting at the white, you can see that white unit A is directly to the front of green and certainly within range, so A is the mandatory target. You would have to shoot here at A. If A were not there, then you could angle the shooting tool and aim at B. B is just barely not to the front, but it's easily within the 45-degree arc, so you could shoot at B if A were not present. If any bit of obstructing terrain appears beneath the measuring tool, then the shot is obstructed, and it continues no more than 2 inches from that point. For example, if you're shooting at an enemy in the woods, and there's more than 2 inches of forest between you and him, you can't hit him. In the example you see here, white is behind fieldworks. Now blue is shooting at white, and he can hit him because white is within 2 inches of those fieldworks, but of course white will have cover from the fieldworks. If white were further back away from the fieldworks, then blue couldn't shoot at him at all. The different kinds of shooters have different effects. For example, a skirmisher can harass the target if it rolls a 5. That places a harassment marker on it. If it rolls a 6, it both harasses the target and scores a disruption against it. Volleys don't harass the target, but they're much more likely to cause disruptions. Note the yellow boxes that show a success only if shooting at an easy target. An easy target is a ranked unit that does not have cover. In the last period of history covered by the game, the early 17th century, firepower had come to dominate the battlefield, and thus it becomes much more deadly in the game. An artillery unit might now have the case shot trait. That's the large yellow explosion symbol you see there. It represents firing what later generations would call canister or grape shot. An infantry unit might have the musketry trait. That's the musket symbol. In both cases, when you're volleying at a target within 8 inches, the shooter rolls 2 dice instead of the normal 1. If either die succeeds, then a disruption is scored. If one of the dice rolled a 6 and the other was a success, then 2 disruptions are scored. I discussed harassment in the previous video. At most, being harassed means that your unit can't make a difficult move. You can see my harassed marker on the left there. That's actually an image I painted of my great-great-great-great-great ancestor, Ibrahim. He survived that wound to his left eye. You can see my disruption marker on the right. That's someone who never got to be my ancestor. Disruptions represent permanent loss, and they accumulate. So my marker here goes up to 6. In the case of large units, you might need 2 markers on a unit. Scoring disruptions on the enemy is the most common way to break enemy units. You'll need some sort of disruption marker to place beside your unit when it takes disruptions. A unit may take a number of disruptions linked to its size, as you can see on this table. Units have a certain level of disruptions. They all begin the game fresh. After taking a certain number of disruptions, they become worn. For example, notice that a small unit is worn once it has taken 2 disruptions. A medium-sized unit is not worn until it has taken 3. Worn units are less effective in combat. If it takes enough disruptions, a unit will break and be removed from the table. For example, a small unit is broken when it takes its 5th disruption. The largest units require 10 disruptions before they break. And yes, it does happen. They definitely attract fire in the game, and they do break. There's one more consideration. When a unit has enough disruptions that one more would break it, that unit is called exhausted. It has additional penalties in combat. For example, a small unit would be exhausted when it has 4 disruptions because one more would break it. Artillery units typically do not get worn or exhausted. They start as fresh, but a single disruption will break them. Shooting is attritional, but eventually, especially in the later historical period, it will break the enemy. There is more to shooting than this. We haven't really discussed the effects of terrain, for example, or the details of visibility and line of sight, but you can go over those in the book. The purpose of this brief video is to introduce shooting and explain its basic mechanisms and process. Remember that each activated unit completes its activation before the next one does. So although no unit can both shoot and charge in the same round, it is a perfectly valid tactic to shoot up your enemy with 1 or more units before charging with a different unit. Our next video will discuss that. We'll talk about combat resolution. I hope you enjoy it.